homesteading to prepping to common horse sense, we are College Hill Farm. Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Well, today we're going to harvest sweet potatoes. Now, I've been sick for the past 2 weeks. I've had a fall cold and I just haven't got to this. I needed to do it 2 weeks ago. But I've got a feeling that there's no sweet potatoes here. If you'll remember at the beginning of the year, we did this planting with sweet potatoes, planting them like Irish potatoes. And they never really made good vines. The vines were awful puny and they just never seemed to do good. You know, our Irish potatoes, we should have had about 8 to 9 bushels of Irish potatoes, and we wound up with 2. So that's just where we're at. I'm gonna see if I can harvest some sweet potatoes here. But one thing that I've noticed is we've drove down through this field a few times and I can't tell exactly where the row's at. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Now over here, right in there is our fall garden with rutabagas and radishes. Of course, the radishes have gone to seed. I've got to harvest those seed. But I don't remember how close I got to the row. I think that my sweet potato row starts right here. Or does it start over there? See, and looking at that, that looks like that could be a hill. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to plow this row up first, and if I don't get no satisfaction, I'll scoot over there and plow that row up. It's just, I don't know. And I may plow both of them up and not get a blessed thing. I just don't think these sweet potatoes did any good at all. So I'm going to plow them up and let's see what happens. Right through there, let's see, where am I? Right through there is where I think there's a row. So keep an eye out and see if any taters turn up. Okay, did you see any taters turn up? Neither did I. Even as I rode back down through there, I saw one, I think. Let's go have a look. Now, as we walk down through here, now there was a question about whether or not I was actually in the tater row. Well, I think I am. And I think that there's just nothing here. I think this is where the sweet taters were, because look right here. Sweet taters. there, and there's one right there. So I am in the row. But there's absolutely no taters. See, here's a sweet potato. See that little bitty nothing? They set on. Little taters. But even sweet potatoes can't handle a drought. Total fail. Well, poop. Okay, there it is. This year's sweet potato crop. That's it. Okay, that's the way it goes. It's like hunting. They call it hunting, not catching. Well, they call this gardening, not harvesting. This year, of course, I didn't plant my normal sweet potatoes. Didn't plant them in beds and then harvest the sets and take them out. I planted them like Irish potatoes, which was a test for me. I'd never done it that way before. My brother's done it that way and had success, but it was probably the year. Our Irish potatoes only gave me back about, out of 4 rows, 100 pounds or so. A little better than a bushel and a half. When in reality I should have got about 8 or 9 bushels off of those 4 rows. So we had a terrible potato year, and apparently the sweet potatoes, you saw 3 fingerling potatoes, a little longer than my finger, and that was it. There wasn't any others. Even after I showed you all, I went back with a tractor and ran the plow through there 2 or 3 times just to make sure that I just wasn't out of the row, and I wasn't. I was dead on it. There just wasn't any potatoes. There were several potatoes, potato roots that were that long, 2 feet long, and had a little tuber just starting on them, but it never filled out. And I attribute that to the summer we had. This summer, we had bouts of drought. Now, generally sweet potatoes like it hot and dry, but apparently this summer was just too dry, and it wasn't very hot. Now in July we had a very hot July, almost 30 days in 90-degree temperatures, 90 or above, and no rain. I don't think, generally we get in July about 5 to 7 inches of rain in July. We get 5 to 7 inches in June. In May and April, we get 7 to 10 inches of rain over the course of the month. But this year in August, it set in dry. We didn't have rain from August the 10th until October the 9th. I commented on that on one of my videos about building the greenhouse, but I said it was September. It wasn't. It was October. So we didn't have any rain the whole month of September. That's when those tubers would have been growing. Okay, so they couldn't. Also, when it should have been putting on plenty of vines. My vines never exceeded 3 feet long. Generally, my sweet potatoes, when I plant them, the vines are 8 to 12 feet long. They'll spread out into 2 rows. So I like to leave them plenty of room to spread out and plant something beside them that I'm going to harvest and clear out so that they can continue spreading into that spot. So that didn't happen. It just, that's the way it is. if you think about sustainability, imagine if Crystal and I, and we're not dependent on them, but imagine if Crystal and I had been 100% dependent on those sweet potatoes making. Imagine the dilemma we'd be in right now. Yeah. I think about the pioneers, and they were growing stuff, and they would turn around and have a crop failure. You know, they didn't have the pesticides and all the stuff we have now. They would have a crop failure. They didn't have fertilizer. Fertilizer has caused the world population to just boom because we can grow so much because of man-made fertilizers. But we're not dependent on that. I have enough sweet potatoes in the basement still that are sprouted that will do good for bedding for next year. They'll do all right for bedding. I've probably got enough to make me a bed next year. And I went out a couple weeks ago and went to our farmer's market, and one of the folks there were selling the white sweet potatoes. And they grew them on their homestead, on their farm. They said that their harvest of sweet potatoes was about a third of what they normally harvest, and they got to plant at the regular time with regular sweet potatoes that they plant with every year. Now, I've been doing this, I'm 59 years old, and I've been helping plant or planting sweet potatoes since I was 8 years old. And most of the time back then, I was carrying the water to plant them. I carried a bucket of water with a cup, and as they would stick them in the hill, I would come back through with a cup of water and then push the dirt up around them. And so at 8 years old, I was doing this and harvesting. Well, at 59, I'm still doing it. So that's 51 years. 51 years I've been at this, and I've never had a sweet potato harvest like this. So, just the way it goes. I've had some sorry sweet potato harvests before. Only a third of what I would normally get. This is zero. So, I've never had a zero before on sweet potatoes. I've never had a zero before on Irish potatoes. But I've had exactly what we had in Irish potatoes before in a bad harvest year. And that's just what we had this year. Next year's another year. We'll give it a shot again. I was talking to some Amish friends over in Crab Orchard, and they told me that their potato harvest was a tenth of what they normally harvest, and said their sweet potato harvest was almost non-existent. So this isn't just me. It's a local phenomenon here in Garrett and Lincoln and Central Kentucky. So some people did all right. They got their sweet potatoes in early May. So their sweet potatoes made before we got that August drought, August to October drought. So their sweet potatoes were already made pretty much. So that's where we're at. If you think that you can come to this stuff and just put it in the ground and reap the harvest, it don't work that way. A word to the folks who call themselves preppers, and Crystal and I call ourselves preppers, but we're more Appalachian lifestyle kind of people. We're prepared for whatever comes. We're not prepared to shoot people over what we've got, but well, we probably would if they were being mean. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. When you think about prepping and you think, well, you get this, you buy these seed lots. Okay, some people buy that stuff, put it in the freezer and think, well, I've got seeds enough to last me for 25 years. And what they don't understand is there's a huge learning curve to this gardening stuff. If you've never planted a garden, you have no idea the amount of work that goes into it, the amount of time, effort, okay, and how easy it can be destroyed. One groundhog, one deer, Okay? You're just one groundhog or one deer away from starvation. You see what I'm saying? You need to get out and plant and grow and start small, work your way up. Crystal and I grow most of what we eat. And in that, by growing most of what we eat, that cuts down on our grocery bill tremendously. Now this year was a real bust. I probably every year invest somewhere around $150 in my garden. Okay? That's about what I invest in the garden. That's counting diesel fuel. Of course, diesel fuel's gone up crazy. But that's counting diesel fuel, fertilizer, and any spray I need to put on the garden. I buy spray. I seldom ever spray anything. The bugs have to be just eating it up before I spray it. And I will use spray. Most of the things that you get out of my garden are about totally organic. They were raised. They had granular fertilizer on them, and sometimes they have Miracle-Gro on them. But other than that, there's no pesticides, no insecticides. A lot of things you can raise that way. I've never sprayed tomatoes. I have sprayed tomatoes for blight in the past, but we've never had a blight problem here. So you have to weigh the advantages and disadvantages. So this year I probably spent $150 on my garden, and I probably only got, I don't know, $125 worth of produce. Normally I would get $700 or $800 worth of produce out of this garden for $150. But this year I just got maybe $125 worth of produce. I did pretty good at my little tomatoes. We've done good at turnips, and we've got some rutabagas out here that I haven't harvested yet. And since I didn't harvest any sweet potatoes, I might harvest some rutabagas and take them to Crystal and let her figure out what she wants to do with them this evening. So, now, if you like this stuff, this homesteading, do-it-yourself kind of thing, be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. We do this homesteading stuff all the time. Now, if you hit the little bell right up here, when you get to the channel, there's a little bell. You hit the little bell, it'll notify you when we upload a video. We upload every Sunday. Now, with that being said, time for me to get on to the next thing.